You curious about what is an ideal marketing budget for your business? And I'm about to show you what the ideal is for virtually any industry. Let's get it! In case you are so observant to notice the lovely decor and this beautiful cushion, maybe you're judging me. I'm not actually home, I'm in an Aloft hotel. But we're not here to talk about Aloft's beautiful decor. We're here to talk about marketing budget. And actually, I'm in Tampa, and I almost didn't bring my lav. But then I saw it on the table and I was like, you know what? Something might happen along the way. It's 4.5-5 hour trip. I was like, let me just grab it, just in case. So I've got two stories that I want to share that happened literally on the drive up to Tampa. Both kind of correlate around marketing budget in varying different ways. All right, so let's start with story number one. And at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what your ideal marketing budget should be. So I get a new client inquiry. He's interested in SEO. All right, let's call him Robert. All right, we'll call him Robert. That's not his real name. So Robert hits me up and he said, hey man, I'm interested in SEO. I'm doing about 270-ish thousand annually in revenue, you know, and I want to rank on the first page for Google, and I'm a general contractor. So I said, all right, cool. I said, do you have any particular budget that you're working with? Generally, I ask that question, really not as a leading question. You know, we're a boutique creative agency. The Brand Lab is our YouTube channel, but you know, if you've been following the content for the past few weeks, you know, we just recently launched this YouTube channel, but I'm the founder and chief brand officer of a creative branding and design agency down here in Miami. So generally when I ask about budget, it's not intended to be a leading question. It's more coming from a sincere place. So when I quote the job, I'm not too far off from whatever you had allocated. So Robert replies back and he said, I don't have a budget in mind, but I don't have the means to spend $5,000 to $10,000 a year. $5,000 to $10,000 a year. So Robert says that to me that he doesn't have $5,000 to $10,000 to spare annually. So my reply to Robert is, well, first off, I think your starting marker is a little bit off because generally SEO isn't billed annually, it's done monthly. And it's also an iterative process whereby I always say to clients, if you do not have the means to budget at least for 3 months of SEO without the expectation of returns, conversions, save your money and don't do it. Why? Because SEO is an iterative process. It takes time. It's not a magic bullet. You don't just go into Google, do a few things, bish bash bosh, and then ding, you're on the first page. It just doesn't work like that, especially with AI advancements and all the people who are investing time into their content, off-page SEO, their website, so on and so forth. So I said, my recommendation would be, you know, you should start off with at least $2,500 a month if you want actual impact. Could we do it for less? And I said this to Robert. I said, could we do it for less? Sure, we can do it for less. I certainly wouldn't advise it because then we're creating copy. On my agency side, I'm having to now water down the service because your budget is less. It's just not gonna work in an optimal fashion, but if you wanna start off slow, you can, just don't expect results quickly. So Robert replies back and he goes, $2,500 a month, question mark, exclamation? And I replied back, yes, full stop. That was it. A lot of people justify their fees. I don't justify my fees. This might sound arrogant, hopefully it doesn't. I know we're great at what we do, our agency. We got amazing people. They're so talented in their craft. They spent time learning it. So when a client wants to play the negotiation game, I'm not a closed book, within reason, let's say. But yeah, if you're gonna significantly lowball me, I'm just not even gonna entertain that. So I said yes, full stop. Robert never replied back. I'll probably follow it with him one more time, but it's likely he's not interested. So yeah, as a business owner, regardless of your space, regardless of your industry, whether you're in real estate, you're running a fitness app, you're running a wellness facility, whatever your business is, if you are an entrepreneur, right? If you are an entrepreneur by default, you are in the marketing and sales game. You have a moral obligation, in fact, to know the bare minimum as far as what marketing constitutes of for your specific industry. Now, you don't need to be a wizard at it. I'm certainly not. For example, I got developers on my team. I have a few, 3. They are phenomenal. They know how to do custom coding. They know how to do all of this stuff. I don't know how to do custom coding, but before I started to hire developers, I had a moral obligation for my own self to learn the basics of what web development constitutes of. Because when I bring on somebody, you're not going to do me over, my man. If I have a foundational understanding exactly of how a website is built, I don't need to know the technicals, I just need to know the ground basics. I'm coming from a place of confidence, at least, where I can also make intelligent decisions. As is the case with SEO, business owners have a moral obligation to know the basics of core marketing principles because you are in the marketing game by default if you are an entrepreneur. So this means how much should I have in a marketing allocation budget? And we're going to get to that. All right, we're going to get to that, I promise. But let me tell you the second story, because it now correlates with the first on the budget side. But first, let me just have a quick little sip of my coffee. Big pause. So story number 2. This is an existing client for whom we had designed a brand guide about, 18 months or so ago. We designed the brand guide, which included their tone of voice, color palette, type fonts, imagery, a website assets, so on and so forth. And we also created, about 8 to 10 pieces of varying marketing collateral. My point of contact is, it's not really the CEO. He kind of steps in as we're getting started, but really my point of contact is the head of sales and marketing. So we're gonna call him Donald, all right? So Donald calls me up and he said,
"Hey man, CEO would love for you guys to design some assets for our booth because we're going to be exhibiting at some shows and things like that. Since you guys did all the brand guide assets, he would prefer to use you."
So I said, great, I appreciate that. Thanks very much for thinking of us. Would love to help out. Scoped it out. They wanted 4 pull-out banners, just like the basics of what you would need if you're going to exhibit at a show. So speak with my lovely, amazing creative director, Lauren, and we end up giving him a quote. And the quote was actually $5,000. However, I said to Donald that generally our fees for booth and exhibit start at $6,500, but I'm willing to give you guys just shy of a 25% discount because you're an existing client. And they wanted it turned around in about 2 weeks. It's a pretty small window. I thought we'd get it done within the 2-week window, so that way you get your assets in time for the next event. So I pulled up at a service station. I quickly sent this email. I'm now arriving into Tampa. It's been about 5 hours. Normally, Donald is very quick to reply. Donald did not reply. So I decided to call up Donald. And I was like, hey, I sent over the quote. Just curious what the overall feedback is. And he's from Texas. I'm not even going to Eastern Texas. I'm not even going to pretend to imitate that hardcore accent. But he goes,
"Yeah, your CEO called me up after you had given the quote."
And he was like,
$5,000 for a few banners? You could just hire somebody from Upwork and do it cheaper.
That's what Donald said. Oh, that's what the CEO said to Donald, which made its way back to me. So then I replied, yeah, you could. You could go to Upwork and get somebody for cheaper shit. Yeah, sure. But I would encourage the CEO to think about this differently. I imagine that you are going to be exhibiting at about, let's say, 4 shows annually. You're probably going to spend, let's call it $2,000 to $2,500 per show. In between like the printing of the collateral, the coordination, sending your people there, all of that. So over the course of the year, let's say that you're spending $10,000. So you don't want to spend half of that on having an amazing booth set up that is inevitably going to drive foot traffic, that is inevitably going to get you leads, that will hopefully, if you're doing a good job on the front lines, result in conversions. The CEO is thinking about design in the, like most people do, they think about design very transactionally.
Oh, what? 4 banners? Like, that's gonna take like 3 hours.
Firstly, no, it's not. And what I said to Donald is, well, you guys paid $2,500 for the brand guide. This is going to be more work, naturally. But even if it wasn't more work, you got to think about it within the context of the value of the asset that you're getting and what the result is going to be. But we don't usually do that. Design, even when I was in corporate marketing, design was always looked at this taboo, but a taboo in the sense that nobody really understands it, and a lot of people really discredit it just because graphic designers, they just create pretty things is the general perspective. That's so flawed in so many different ways, man. But what I said to Donald is, I would encourage the CEO to change the perspective in the way that he is looking at this, because it's the value that matters. And also, of course, the quality matters, but you already know that, because otherwise you wouldn't have come to me create these assets for you if we did a bad job the first go around. But Donald said that he would relay that message back to CEO. So let's see what he comes back with, and I'll keep you guys posted. I'm not hopeful that CEO is going to change his mind, but hopefully if you are a business owner and you're watching this, perhaps what I've just said might shift your perspective a little bit as you think about design and designing with impact and the value of design, hopefully. Now let's talk about what you all have been waiting for, which is the marketing budget. So there's generally two ways that we can go about marketing budget. And I'm speaking also, just FYI, from a place of knowledge and relatability. I was a corporate marketing director before I founded our creative agency, Case Creatives. I worked on Wall Street, healthcare, fitness and wellness. I've been around. Generally, what my experience suggests is that your marketing spend should be 7 to 10% of your total annual revenue, your monthly marketing budget. So one more time, your monthly marketing budget should be 7 to 10% of your total revenue. So now let's go back to example number one. What was his made up name again? Robert. So Robert is making, call it 250 grand in revenue. So I went to Robert and I said, your monthly SEO cost should be 2.5 grand a month, right? It's about 10%. Conversely, he wanted to do 10,000 for the whole year, which I think works out to what, like 800 or something like that. So who knows? Who knows? Long story short, he didn't have enough. He did not have enough allocated. So that's option one.
But then you might be like, yeah, but Rez, I'm a new business. I'm not bringing in revenue yet. So 7 to 10% of nothing is nothing.
Yes. So then which brings me to option two, which is if you are an emerging business and you're just setting yourself up, the sweet spot starting is around $1,500 a month. Just the greater of, right? It's either $1,500 minimum, with the understanding that that will compound. Hopefully whomever is doing your marketing is bringing in the conversions. Marketing is intended to pay itself off as well. That's another way that we should think about marketing, is if marketing is done correctly, it should be bringing revenue in. Therefore, we should be able to take those funds, compound them, grow them, and incrementally increase our monthly marketing budget. But the thing is that a lot of marketing isn't effective, so that the budget just stays the same. And this happens with large brands all the time. Total monthly marketing budget should be one of two things: 7 to 10% of your total revenue, or it should be around $1,500 a month. If you don't have $1,500 a month, start with $1,000. If you don't have $1,000, start with $500. Just start with something and start to plan for these costs ahead of time. Create a small fund. Just deposit small amounts while you're in the planning phase, so that when it's time to actually launch and let's say deploy a paid campaign, you're now not having to dig through funds. You've already planned ahead of time. This is why we should all have marketing plan. I'm not even going to go into that, but that is a future episode that I am going to just ding that and store that in my brain for a future episode. But yeah, so that's basically it. And I hope these stories kind of contextualized it, where hopefully you might think about designing differently. And I can do a separate one of these to show you what designing with impact actually looks like. What I'd actually encourage you to do is check out the episode that I did right before this one, bing! And in that, I show you what our approach is towards creating lead magnets and assets that ultimately drive leads down the funnel. So hope you enjoyed this. Hope this created some clarity on how you should structure your marketing budget. Please do us a favor, like, comment, subscribe, turn on the bell for the notifications, all of that jazz. It's a new YouTube channel. We're about, I don't know, the 9th or 10th episode in. I'm here to grow a community of active business owners. I'm here to help. Please comment below with any needs, problems, things like that, so that way I can just create an episode that is more tailored towards your specific picture. My name's Rez. Thanks a lot for tuning in. This is the Brand Lab. Peace!